You've survived another week. Thank you for listening, downloading, and supporting the Black Man with a Gun show. This week, the NRA in crisis. I'm going to read to you a Rolling Stone article, which is pretty damning, talking about the con in the gun community. We got some scammers, y'all. Tips on how to look out for them. Talking about the school shooting. I want to remind you about the importance of tourniquets. And there's a USCCA Expo coming down the pike May 17th. You might want to check it out in Philly. This portion of the show is brought to you by Black Man with a Gun Reloaded. You can get your autographed copy from me directly by emailing me at blackmanwithagun@gmail.com. For only $20, Black Man with a Gun Reloaded is an autobiographical book about gun control, how I became a trainer, an activist, a speaker for the Second Amendment. This book has a glossary that will make you sharper. It belongs on the bookshelf of every gun owner. Black Man with a Gun Reloaded. Email me at blackmanwithagun@gmail.com today. It's also available on Amazon without the love.
blackmanwithagun.com. Ken Blanchard's Pro-Gun Podcast.
All right, after John Wayne leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to try to communicate what's on my mind. This is episode 614. What a mess.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What a couple of weeks has been. The NRA in crisis, infighting among its top officials, red ink, and a burst of government investigations. I was going to have an in-depth conversation with a couple of folks that went to the National Rifle Association's annual meeting, but had some issues of my own. Last week, I was at an active threat class for 4 days, and then my computer program started acting crazy. After I was already physically tired. Then we had a really bad thunderstorm that knocked out my Wi-Fi one night, and I missed a couple of really guest time slots. So, you know what? I'm going to wait and come back to it. That's what I did. Like our friend Avery says from Skip's Tactical Podcast, if you don't have a solution, don't just restate the problem. Of course, I paraphrased. But she's right, though. Then I thought, could I do any better? I've been around. I've seen how things work. I could start something that could outlive me and serve our country. It's all about service, actually. So I asked a few people on my Rolodex that knew the ins and outs of lobbying and what gun rights should look like, and I learned a few things. I might be putting something together in the future just to see if I got any traction. If you're interested, let me know. So, what's this show going to be about this week? I was going to talk to some hunters, but, the really good ones don't talk. How to Prevail podcast is doing pretty well. Have you checked that out yet? Go to podcast.howtoprevail.com and let me know what you think. Got a quick announcement about my Second Amendment podcast in Spanish. I'm going to let you hear that in a minute. I'm going to share something I learned about tactical medical, about tourniquets in particular, and just some FYI about con men in our community.
This portion of the show is sponsored by CrossbreedHolsters.com. Crossbreed Holsters has gained national recognition as a maker of the best and most functional concealment holsters available on the market today. Each holster is handcrafted to ensure your firearm is safe and secure while carrying, combined with the best customer service in the industry. Visit CrossbreedHolsters.com.
All right, this is kind of a weird subject for our Second Amendment community, but thankfully there are not a lot of them. But I want to talk about the con artists that we have in our family. They are selling and we are buying. They are charming the draws off of some people and making money off of white guilt. They are pimping people into becoming their disciples. They work the crowd and talk black when it suits them. Here's the situation. We are the gun community. Our troubles began when we decided to become gun owners. We instantly have people that are trying to stop us from owning, shooting, using, collecting, and having what we want. We already got it rough. We fight each other, though. Gun control was born in racism. It's a political evergreen topic. We have organizations that provide education, they lobby, they promote the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, the choice is small, and they have become bloated, corrupt, and give out more bovine excrement than they do service. But we defend them anyway and keep on supporting them. We also have a boatload of bloggers, YouTubers, podcasters, new media types, all fighting for the same eyeballs and earbuds, and we're even starting to fight one another. Then we have a smaller organization. We have groups and clubs that are trying to stay solvent, trying to grow, trying to be relevant. And the new ones are using fear and culture, just like the biggest orgs do, to galvanize their base. And then there's the individuals who don't have a blog, a podcast. They're trainers or instructors or tactical business. So who do they follow? Who do they listen to? And then you get down to the bottom, and there's people, good people in this industry, seeking to change things, but they're also fair game to the con. Reminds me of that Sting movie with Paul Newman and Robert Everett. You ever watch that, The Sting? All right, for history's sake, that was a little bit of Scott Joplin and the ragtime done in dubstep. Just a little bit of history there. But I'm talking about the people who use con, the crooked folks in our group. Yeah, we have them. And I need you just to process this for a minute. We have great people, but we also have charlatans, snake oil salesmen, shysters, pimps, and hustlers in our family. And we got enough problems without that, but here we are. Why am I saying this? Because I am the pastor of Patriots, Pistoleros, and Paladins. I care about you. I hate to see you suffer, get taken advantage of, suckered, and put out on the street. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to share some characteristics of these charlatans, these snake oil salesmen, these shysters, these pimps, these hustlers, and hope you hear me. See, they promise a lot. Here's the characteristics. He or she is a charmer. Charm is always a tool people use to attain a certain goal. Most charmers aren't a threat, but many criminals will use charm to deceive you of their harmful intentions, and that is to use you or get money from you. A good defense, which helps you see around the charmer for who they really are, is to consciously tell yourself, this person is trying to charm me, as opposed to, this person is charming. Every con, big or small, relies on one thing, distracting you from the obvious. And one of the most obvious facts in a questionable situation is when you're approached by a stranger. These jokers come out of nowhere, right? And oftentimes these criminals will converse with their victims a little too much, feeding them too much details about false experiences in order to distract their victims from the obvious fact that the person doesn't know them at all. Also, the reasons criminals give too many details is a telling sign of their malintent. When people are telling the truth, they don't feel doubted, so they don't feel the need to give additional support in the form of details. But when people lie, even if it's what they say sounds credible to you, it doesn't sound credible to them, so they keep talking. These con artists know that being themselves hurts their business, so effective con artists have to disguise their true motives. The con artist takes great pains to look and sound familiar. Often con artists like to blend in with others in your group, whether that group be political or a community group. They quickly get to know a lot of people in the group so they can count on this common bond to spread the word about their questionable past. They use others to spread their crap on social media, using their bona fides. You can clearly identify when a stranger conjures a shared experience with you, where none exists, by using the pronouns we and us and phrases like, now we've done it, or we're some team. Add the phrase if you want. Criminals use it to get closer to their victims by creating the illusion that you're both in the same boat. Also, most people are reluctant to deflect forced teaming because it's difficult to do so without seeming rude. And this only adds to the criminal's advantage. Typecasting is also a technique con artists generally use to get somebody's full attention. It always involves a slight insult that is easy to refute. For example, a man at a bar tells a woman that she's probably too snobbish to talk to him. And she could easily prove him wrong by sparking a conversation, but the best defense against typecasting is to ignore the remark entirely, because acknowledging it is exactly what the typecaster wants. Even though con artists would like you to believe that they're just plain folk, they are smart enough to realize that this alone will not sway you to be part or give them any money. And they work very hard to come across as smooth and successful. Nowadays, they do it with photos. They make sure they're photo op. Make sure that you get on an Instagram picture with them, because your presence signifies for them. It gives them credibility. Skilled con artists can bring out your worst traits, particularly fear and insecurity. They know what you want. They know that you want to be considered hip and cool and down with the cause. Con artists know that promises of huge returns with no risk will get your attention. Con artists try to make you feel inadequate if you don't believe them or ask too many questions. Con artists are very friendly. They take a personal interest in you out of the blue. They call back when they promised they would. Each time they tell you more good things about what they are doing for the cause. Despite his or her kind words, the con artist will do anything in his or her power to make that sale. And too often, however, once you have invested your money, contact with the con artist dwindles and then stops altogether, unless you're an ever-flowing bank. If you cannot get answers to your questions after handing over your cash, there's a good chance someone else is getting rich off your investment. I say check their background, their educational history, and work experience, the prior track record of the business and its principles. Are they using their real name or a pseudo? These are just some of the things that it doesn't mean it's anybody in particular, but I want just to give you some stuff from somebody who's been around a minute. And what if you've already given money to this con guy or girl? Stop. That's all. Don't let your pride keep him or her in business. Just trying to keep you wise as we go through this world, fighting and ducking and trying to keep the Second Amendment alive.
Hi, this is Avery, also known as Skip, with Skip's Tactical Solutions. I would love for you to check out my podcast called Skip's Tactical Solutions, and it can be found in all podcast players. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Skip's Tactical Solutions. And while you're at it, feel free to check out my website, that's skipstacticalsolutions.com. All right, Ken, back to you.
MarylandShallIssue.org. It's an all-volunteer, nonpartisan organization dedicated to the preservation and advancement of gun owners' rights in Maryland. It seeks to educate the community about the right of self-protection, the safe handling of firearms, and the responsibility that goes with carrying a firearm in public. MarylandShallIssue.org. This is the group, your group, the grassroots group in the state of Maryland. Join us, no matter where you are. MarylandShallIssue.org. This is all from a Rolling Stone article. It says chaos broke out at the NRA's annual convention in Indianapolis last week. The gun group's figurehead president, Oliver North, backed by its longtime PR firm, Ackerman McQueen, allegedly tried to oust NRA President Wayne LaPierre. But LaPierre hit back, forcing North to step down, while winning unanimous re-election by the NRA board. As this Game of Thrones where the infighting played out, New York Attorney General Letitia James announced that she had opened an investigation into the NRA's financial practices amid public accusations that NRA executives and contractors have been feathering their nest with donor dollars, raising the possibility that the association's nonprofit status could be revoked. Things have gotten so bad that even, quote, chaos President Donald Trump tweeted at the gun lobby to get its act together quickly, stop the internal fighting, and get back to greatness fast. Below, we tease out this hot mess at the NRA, according to the article. The gun lobby spent $30 million in the 2016 election to boost Trump. more than twice what it spent on Romney in 2012. The go for broke investment paid off in a president who praises gun rights at every turn and appointed 2 arch-conservative justices to the Supreme Court. But these victories have come at a deep cost for the NRA. It has lost the boogeyman of a Democratic president and a cash flow that boosted by convincing gun owners that their rights are under siege. The NRA remains under Senate scrutiny for its associations with Russia in the run-up to 2016. And the gun group is finally paying a price for evangelizing assault weapons as the moral authority of the Parkland teens and a nation repulsed by active shooter drills at their kids' schools has elevated the anti-gun violence movement into a political counterweight. The NRA has been hemorrhaging money, losing more than $45 million in 2016 and another $17 million in 2017, leading the organization to cut back on everything from office coffee to electioneering. The NRA was outspent by gun control groups in the 2018 midterm elections. Ackerman McQueen is the NRA's top PR firm and has crafted the gun group's public image for nearly 4 decades, famously casting Planet of the Apes actor Charlton Heston as NRA president. Heston declared in the year 2000 that gun control opponents would have to rip a rifle, quote, from my cold, dead hands. It's been a famous thing. In recent years, Ackerman's NRA campaigns have centered on the apocalyptic, stoking the fear that gooses gun sales by warning of race war and social collapse and a government that either can't defend its citizens or is itself a tyrannical threat. As part of this effort, Ackerman launched NRA TV, turning spokesperson Dana Loesch into a national force, but with video content that often veers into ultra-culture war fights, including depicting Thomas the Tank Engine characters in KKK hoods. Ackerman has long held a reputation as the tail that wags the dog at the NRA, but as its media operation has grown, Ackerman has begun to resemble a snake that's trying to swallow the NRA whole. By 2017, the NRA was paying the firm and its affiliates nearly $40 million annually, according to LaPierre, more than it spent to elect Trump. Speaking of Wayne LaPierre, LaPierre is NRA's longtime, highly paid executive vice president and CEO. According to NRA's latest tax filing, Ackerman gets credit for transforming LaPierre's public persona from a meek manager into a fire-breathing zealot. But LaPierre comes by his survival instincts honestly, riding out dozens of controversies since taking the reins at the NRA in 1991. Took over NRA's presidency just last year. His predecessor, the gun executive, Pete Brownell, chose not to stand for re-election after the NRA junket he led to Russia in 2015 came under scrutiny by Congress. As North took on the ceremonial mantle of the NRA, he also scored a huge deal with Ackerman to produce content for NRA TV that paid him, quote, millions of dollars annually, according to LaPierre. William Brewer III. Brewer is the NRA's top dollar outside counsel, adding family drama to the turf battles between the NRA and Ackerman McQueen. Brewer's father-in-law is Angus McQueen, co-CEO of the publicity firm. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, with NRA is chartered, who campaigned on investigating the NRA's nonprofit status. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, whom the NRA sued after he officially encouraged financial institutions not to do business with the NRA. Donald Trump, elected in 2016 with the help of unprecedented $30 million in NRA spending. Ron Wyden, the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, who has been investigating the NRA's ties to Russia. Now that you got some of the players, NRA versus Ackerman McQueen. A bitter feud between the NRA and this PR firm burst into public view in mid-April when the NRA sued Ackerman McQueen in the state court in Virginia for having flagrantly disregarded its contractual obligations, end quote. The lawsuit came after years of growing tension inside the NRA about its dependence on Ackerman McQueen, a conflict that came to a head after Ackerman McQueen refused to cooperate in the audit the NRA launched to get ahead of the potential Letitia James investigation. The suit alleged that Ackerman McQueen's opaque billing practices bled millions from the NRA without proper documentation. The NRA hits Ackerman McQueen for a lack of transparency in annual budgets and raises concerns that the company was invoicing the NRA for entire salaries of personnel who worked for non-NRA clients. Much of the conflict centers on NRA TV. The NRA writes that the, Quote, trust and confidence it placed in Ackerman McQueen led the NRA to invest in an expanding suite of services which were, according to Ackerman McQueen's assurances, fairly priced. For example, the NRA agreed to experiment with an owned media company, NRA TV, a concept fervently pitched by Ackerman McQueen, but it claimed the firm has refused to provide basic metrics such as unique visitors, viewership numbers, click-through rates, needed for the NRA to analyze the return on its investment in NRA TV. The lawsuit also complains that NRA TV strayed into topics far afield of the Second Amendment, claiming Ackerman McQueen had deviated from the NRA's core mission and values. The NRA insists its own go-to PR firm has been withholding information that is material to NRA's non-for-profit governance and its stewardship of members' donations. The legal complaint concludes with striking language that the NRA's compliance with not-for-profit law cannot be permitted to be held hostage by a recalcitrant advertising agency. Now, this is a side note from me. Of all the things that I've read and know about all the players we mentioned here, there's a lot of truth here. So I decided to read it to you. And even though it's against the beloved National Rifle Association, truth is truth, y'all. Wayne LaPierre versus Oliver North. The fight between NRA and Ackerman McQueen has spilled over into a proxy battle between LaPierre and North. Chief among NRA's complaints is that North has been paid millions by Ackerman McQueen for NRA documentary series American Heroes that North has largely failed to deliver on. North, who was previously paid by Fox News, was pulled away from that gig with the promise of a rich payday by Ackerman McQueen. But Ackerman McQueen, in an odd fit of opacity, refused to reveal to the NRA exactly what North's financial relationship was with the firm, according to NRA's lawsuit, despite the NRA ultimately footing the bill. Long story short, the NRA didn't know much or how much it was paying its own president. This dispute over North's pay presaged the power struggle last week at the NRA convention. On April 25th, LaPierre wrote a letter to the NRA's board warning that North and Ackerman McQueen were trying to oust him. LaPierre wrote that Ackerman was threatening to reveal, quote, a devastating account of our financial status, end quote, as well as a litany of misbehavior by NRA officials, according to LaPierre. North used extortionist tactics, offering to keep those explosive claims under wraps if LaPierre stepped down and accepted a plush retirement package. In short, LaPierre won the face-off against North. In a statement read to the NRA convention on North's behalf, North wrote, I hope to be with you today as NRA president, endorsed for re-election. I am now informed that will not happen, but North got in some last licks. There is a clear crisis that needs to be dealt with immediately. Citing reports of financial mismanagement by senior NRA officials, he warned, if true, the NRA's nonprofit status is threatened. The Wall Street Journal reports that North had previously blown the whistle to the NRA board, alleging that LaPierre purchased more than $200,000 in clothing he'd billed to a, quote, vendor. Many issues raised by Colonel North have been subject to review and investigation by the NRA since last year. NRA lawyer Brewer said in a statement, in our view, the items involving LaPierre may reflect a misinformed view of his and the NRA's commitment to good governance. In addition, the Journal has reported allegations that LaPierre billed more than $240,000 in travel to places like Italy and the Bahamas to an Ackerman McQueen credit card. But LaPierre's natty suits and luxury travel habits may be just the tip of the much larger iceberg. A recent joint investigation published by The New Yorker and The Trace, drawing an internal document, tax records, and interviews, reported that a small group of NRA executives, contractors, and vendors has extracted hundreds of millions of dollars from the nonprofit's budget through gratuitous payments, sweetheart deals, and opaque financial arrangements. The expose quotes former IRS Director Mark Owens saying, the litany of red flags is just extraordinary. Ron Wyden versus the NRA. Maria Butina was recently sentenced to 18 months for her plot to infiltrate the NRA and open a conduit between the Kremlin and Trump world. Butina, infamously, invited a cohort from the NRA to Moscow in late 2015, treating the gun lobby guests to extravagant meals and introducing NRA brass to top figures in Vladimir Putin's government. In a recent interview, Rolling Stone asked Senator Wyden about his investigation into the NRA's Russian ties, including the possibility that Russian funds had helped boost NRA spending on Trump's behalf. Wyden would not speak to the specifics of his investigation, but the senator volunteered that he thought the NRA attempt to distance itself from that Moscow junket, suggesting it was not an official trip, were risible. What the NRA had to say in their changing story about how they weren't involved in this official trip, I don't think that passes the smell test, Wyden said. It's not credible. On May 3rd, Wyden sent letters to LaPierre, North, and Ackerman McQueen, telling the parties to turn over internal documents, quote, relating to alleged financial misconduct or the NRA's nonprofit status. Amid the myriad scandals rocking the NRA, this much is clear. The association stands at one of the gravest moments of peril in its nearly 150-year history, presenting a rare opportunity for the gun lobby's opponents to kick it while it's down. I want to take the next few minutes and let you know that I've created a new podcast for the Second Amendment for Spanish speakers called El Segundo Edicto, and it's hosted by my friend and brother from the Latin gun owners group, Carlos Alvarez. You can check it out at el2e.com. How you doing, Carlos?
Maravilloso, te habla Carlos Álvarez aquí en el programa Segundo Edicto.
You got that? Check it out.
Segundoedicto.com.
I want to thank all that encouraged Carlos on our production of El Segundo Edicto, the program podcast I produced. It's going to take a pause, a short break for a little while, but hopefully it comes back. If you're interested in hearing the show, send me a note, let me know. Gracias. Quiero agradecer a todos los que han animado a Carlos en nuestra producción de El Segundo Edicto, el podcast progresivo que produce. Va a tomar un pausa por un tiempo. Concealed Carry Expo, presented by the United States Concealed Carry Association. It's a consumer show dedicated to opening a world of tactical ingenuity to responsible gun owners. This expo offers safe and practical seminars from firearms industry experts, a free live fire shooting range to test new handguns, and a huge selection of gear, services, and information from our trusted industry partners. When is it? May 17th through 19th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Times are as follows. Day 1, Friday, May 17th, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Day 2, Saturday, May 18th, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Day 3, Sunday, May 19th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Door price is $25 unless you are a member. Admission for USCC members and kids under 18 is 100% free at the door, but does not include a pre-registration benefits that I'm talking about before. Check out usccaexpo.com for more information. Yeah, make sure you check that out. usccaexpo.com. Philadelphia, PA, May 17th through the 19th. usccaexpo.com.
Hi, this is Michael Woodland from M-W Tactical. Go follow me on Instagram and Facebook. See what's going on with me by going to www.m-wtactical.com. Visit the M-W Tactical channel by going to gunstreamer.com. Thanks, Ken.
Hey, thank you, Big Mike. Hey, and now, the news. In the news this week, another tragedy. In Colorado, of all places. What's the deal with Colorado? A suburban Denver school where 2 teens opened fire is in the news this week, where they killed another teenager and wounding 8 others. The school will be closed for the remainder of the week. The 18-year-old hid the gun in a guitar case, supposedly. Douglas County School District officials made the announcement in an email Tuesday night and said that crisis counselors will be available to all STEM schools, Highlands Ranch students, staff, and families at nearby church on Wednesday. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office confirmed late Tuesday that 18-year-old Devin Erickson was taken into custody after the shooting. The other suspect is a juvenile whose name has not been released. As gun owners, every time there's a shooting, people point and look at you. So, what should be our response? Think about that and get back with me. Let me know. What do you think we should do the next time? How about we preempt it? How about we get prepared for it? How about we talk about it and have good answers and good discussion so that we can talk folks through the situation? Hit me back at blackmanwithagun@gmail.com with your suggestion. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. All right, I stirred up the pot talking about the NRA and all the stuff that's going down. We talked a little bit about the scam artists that we got among us, and I talked about the news. Now I want to share something with you that I learned last week about tourniquets. Yeah. You know, the first documented use of tourniquets in the battlefield happened like in 1674. And complications of tourniquet use were said to lead to severe tissue damage, and soldiers had amputations of limbs that were often attributed to the use of tourniquets, but could have been easily just been from infection. You know, tourniquets have gotten a bad rap in the field of emergency first aid, but as gun owners, as folks who are actively shooting, the chances that there's a boo-boo that happens that you might need a tourniquet is real high. A tourniquet are tight bands used to control bleeding by completely stopping the blood flow to a wound. Tourniquets work only on arm and leg injuries. You can't exactly wrap a tight band around a patient's neck and cinch it down to stop the flow of blood. Traditionally, tourniquets were reserved for, quote, the worst bleeding to keep the patient from developing shock. But again, you're at a range. The chances of an accidental discharge, unintentional shooting, around you actually drawing and shooting yourself in an extremity is kind of high. And you might want to add that to your kit. They don't cost that much, but man, it can save your life. See, applying a tourniquet in the civilian world used to be seen as a last resort. It was thought that it made sense for soldiers because combat wounds are severe and a fighter needs to stay in the fight. And then it was a risk worth taking. But that doesn't mean that tourniquets don't work. On the contrary, tourniquets can arrest bleeding quite well and are certainly useful in cases of severe bleeding that cannot be stopped any other way. Basically, if you go to the range at any time, there should be a tourniquet in your bag. I'm just keep telling you this over and over again. See, we could go methodically through steps to control bleeding. We're taught to start with direct pressure, and if that doesn't work, you do what? You elevate, right? And if the bleeding continued, a tourniquet became a dire option. So tourniquets were thought to guarantee the loss of a limb, but that's not necessarily so. Losing that blood flow would most certainly lead to catastrophic tissue damage. Modern evidence-based medicine is changing that long-held view about tourniquets. Truth. You can bleed out if a round or a knife wound hits your femoral or your branchial artery. Yeah, in like less than 4 minutes. By the time somebody goes and get help, you could be laying in a puddle of your own blood. Unintentionally. And you can stop that. You can actually put a tourniquet on yourself. Yeah. There's going to be a link here to Amazon for you to check out one that I learned in training. It was pretty tight. I was really pleased with myself. And stupid at the same time that I didn't know about this before. So regardless whether you served in the military or not, if you are a gun owner, if you shoot, if you actually do actively, recreationally shoot a firearm anywhere, I want you to have a tourniquet in your bag from this day forward. Find out one, get one, learn how to use one. Okay? There'll be a link to it in the show notes. Tourniquets, baby, I'm telling you, it's the truth. It's something that you need to do. And that's what I'm trying to do with this episode. There's some stuff in here I know it stings a little bit. There's some stuff I'm talking about that you're thinking, who is he talking about? What's going on? It's for knowledge. It's for empowerment. I want you to be smarter. I want you to just keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open. We are the heroes in our neighborhood. You know that, right? We're the smart ones. I want to make you smarter. And if you don't agree with nothing I said, or you got issues with whatever I was talking about, then charge it to my heart and not my head. I am actually trying to help you. Well, that's it. I'm hoping I said something that made sense to you. Einstein said that you have to learn the rules of the game, and then you have to play better than anybody else. Just in case nobody has told you this today, I love you, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Until the next time, shalom, baby.
Until next time, friends.
To keep in touch with Ken and his cause, head over to blackmanwithagun.com.
Blanchard.media.